Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to What You Want, and thanks for logging on. That's my little friend there, sounding off for Le Mans Week 2015. This is the second of today's two motorsports-themed watches, the Jaeger-LeCoultre Amvox R-Alarm, 44mm in brushed titanium. This is one of 500 built in a commemorative limited edition in the year 2005 to celebrate Aston Martin's return to top-level sports car endurance racing with the DBR5 model. Now, since the 1920s, Aston Martin and Jaeger-LeCoultre, through the Jaeger instrument division of the company, have had a special relationship with dashboard clocks, tachometers, speedometers, and gauges being built by Jaeger for Aston Martin, featured in a broad array of sports, touring, and road racing cars. It's a great tradition that was taken to the next level in 2004 with the debut of the Amvox line, literally a line of motorsports and automotive-themed watches designed to recall the dashboard instruments, the 270-degree speedometer calibration of a vintage Jaeger Aston Martin speedometer. The line marked the first time that the Aston Martin logo had appeared on a Jaeger product, and there it is right there, rather than the other way around. Now, the great thing about the R-Alarm is that it took the essential qualities of the admittedly Polaris dive watch themed Amvox 1, and it added more size, more character, and a more distinct personality. In a lot of ways, it was the Amvox 1 on steroids. And you can see on my wrist, 6 1/3 inches, 16 centimeters, this watch does have a steroidal presence, both because of the span of its case, which is beautifully finished, multiply faceted, and keyed with a gorgeous white, yellow, black, and green color scheme. Now, the watch sits light. Because it is titanium, it doesn't have a lot of heft to it, so it's quite wieldy. It's also quite flat. It's very thin, being only about 12.5 millimeters thick at 44 millimeters across, with quite bold, I would say chunky lugs. The watch has a good square-jawed, broad-shouldered look, but close your eyes and you'd swear it's a 40mm standard watch on a leather strap. That's the mass impression I'm getting. This is like a 40mm steel watch. Very comfortable, and the triple crowns don't dig skin or in any way impinge on the mobility or hyperextension of my wrist, so it's a real ergonomic triumph, and a big part of that is this exceptionally supple Kavskin leather strap. Now, it does feature a motorsports carbon fiber motif, carbon fiber being used for everything from body work to structural components these days. It is the dominant wonder material of modern motorsport, from Indy cars to Formula One to, yes, endurance sports car racing in the 24 Hours of Le Mans. But while the motif is distinctly carbon fiber, the material is undoubtedly calfskin, with a contrasting white hand stitch. It's a heavily bolstered strap to give it enough shoulder and substance and presence to compete with this incredibly broad, strong, visually, I would say almost brutal case. This has a lot more masculinity to it than the more delicate, smaller Amvox 1. The R-Alarm is really the Amvox 1 taken to the next level, almost halfway between the Amvox 1 and the big 44mm chronograph that was the Amvox 2. Now, the watch features a very comfortable automotive upholstery style calfskin on the bottom of the strap, so I just want to emphasize how comfortable this is, despite the strength of its character lines and the size of its case. Also, with that Aston Martin logo blazoned on the back, the co-branding is discreet. Now, many can get in line with the idea of a big watch, a bold watch, a bright watch, a cheerful watch, and a motorsports-themed watch, but they don't necessarily want a car logo on the front of that watch, which is why the Aston Martin wings and corporate marquee are on the case back, where those who want to enjoy it can enjoy it when they wish. Now, I mentioned that the watch is inspired by the 1960s Jaeger-LeCoultre Polaris diving watch, and that theme continues on the case back, where the super compressor case style drilled drainage ports for the alarm system of the original are reproduced here. This is only a simulacrum of the original system. That watch needed a hollow case back to resonate. As you've already discovered, this watch is as audibly loud as it is visually loud, so it doesn't need any help. And unlike the 16-hole original, this one features 4 holes. They don't go anywhere, but it's a loving reference to one of the truly great models of JLC's history. Also reproducing the look of that original Polaris is the triple crown arrangement. Now, the crown at the top winds and sets the alarm, and you can see that the center disc on the dial features the index that indicates the time that the alarm has been set to sound off. And you set and wind the watch itself from this crown at 4 o'clock. The center Now that's a clever piece because it reproduces the bidirectional rotating bezel of the original Polaris. So not only do you get the functionality of a completely indexed, completely secure dive watch bezel, but you get it without breaking up the flow of the dial or visually separating the bezel from the dial. So it reads as a much bigger watch even than its 44mm span. And that works to its aesthetic advantage. Now, if you do want to time something dive watch style, you just take the index right here, it's where the calibrations end, you align it with the Calypso style minute hand, and then you can time an interval from 0 to 60 minutes. For instance, your stint between pit stops at the 24 Hours of Le Mans. Now, there are a lot of other important aspects of this dial that define it and make it functionally excellent and aesthetically endearing. A big part of that is the combination of these Polaris style numeric Arabic numerals and index hour markers. Now you can see that the watch features the 270-degree style of the Aston Martin vintage speedometer, so it's not calibrated from 4 to 8, but it also features the same numeral style as the vintage Polaris. And this watch debuting in 2005, it came out long before the company's official Tribute to Polaris re-edition. So I like that the watch has that company heritage, the DNA, the pedigree, a reference without being overt or literal. This watch stands on its own as its own watch, whereas I feel like the Tribute to Polaris, while it's beautiful and it's well done, relies a little bit too much on the legend of its predecessor to be desirable in the modern sense. This watch stands and succeeds on its own merit with its own identity. And a big part of that identity is tied to the traditional color-coded racing schemes of the 1920s and 30s. You may wonder why we use that term British racing green. Indeed, why is this watch so heavily shaded with this dark green color? What significance does that have to Aston Martin? And the answer lies in the original use of colors to designate the race cars of different nations in the interwar period. Of course, red was the Italians, silver was the Germans, blue the French, and British racing green denoted the British competitors on track. Hence we have British racing green with high contrast white and yellow accents, and right at center you have a black center disc with that alarm index, and the center disc features additional articulation in the form of a royal oak tapisserie or hobnail style guilloche cut pattern. So there's a lot going on here, and fittingly for a watch designed in conjunction with a team racing in the day into night into day 24 Hours of Le Mans, it's heavily loomed and it glows like a torch at night. This is a watch that really has it all. For the JLC enthusiast, there are the references to history, the history in motorsports, the history with Aston Martin, the Jaeger instrument tradition, as well as the references to the Polaris dive watch and the super compressor dive watch cases of the 1960s. There's the functionality of the bidirectional calibrated rotating dive bezel, the jump date with its splayed out radially accentuated window at 3 o'clock. There's the alarm, and I've experienced just about every alarm watch on the market and virtually every alarm JLC has ever built. I own several of them. This is hands down the loudest. There's no question that between the caliber 918 inside with its hanging alarm and this broad, bright, resonant titanium case, you've got a lightning in a bottle type combination that will cause you to jump out of your socks if you do happen to fall asleep during the 24-hour event this weekend. It's the perfect reminder to wake up and watch the finish. And let me tell you, with this on your wrist, you will have your best 24 Hours of Le Mans, regardless of whether you're watching or competing on track. Make 2015 a memorable one with this Jaeger-LeCoultre Amvox R-Alarm. 44mm titanium, one of 500 made. The race is coming up in a few days, so don't delay. This Jaeger-LeCoultre Amvox R-Alarm could be on your wrist for the big one this weekend.